drive. Left-handed flush over the top of Kepning.
Pullback, step back three. Bottom!
Mavericks, it's short. Tip back in. Weaver got it. Yes!
Neely, the handoff. Jones for the tie.
Oh, he's fouled and one.
Presents itself is what you got to take. You can't.
It's knocked away. Still loose. Doherty, the heave. Oh, my God.
Welcome to the Straight Outta WAC podcast.
I think I really need to get that intro changed for this Straight Outta WAC After Dark show live from my office in Utah. I just got home from the campus of Utah Valley University, where I got to watch a pretty wild women's basketball game between Utah Valley and California Baptist. Epic upset at the Lockhart Arena. They have to play in their smaller gym this weekend because the state wrestling is happening there at Utah Valley. Anyways, just got done watching the Utah Valley California Baptist men's game. I don't know what to say about it. 69-46 win for Utah Valley, their second road win all season long, and they did it by 23 points in Riverside. No Dom Daniels Jr. again for CBU. And the Lancers shot 31% from the field. Not a good night if you're a Lancer fan. Both your men and your women lost. Your women fell a game and a half behind Grand Canyon in the race for the regular season title. Everybody that's watching, if you want, share some comments, share some thoughts on tonight's games. Leave a comment on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're watching at. But we're going to be talking about some of these games. I'm waiting for Daryl to jump in. I don't know if he's going to. Oh, I need to send him the link. I didn't even send him the link. Wow. What kind of manager am I, or founder, whatever you want to call me? Anyways, guys, we are a month away from WAC Vegas, less than 40 days. And the race for WAC Vegas is heating up. It is a mess in the middle of the WAC standings right now. On the men's side, you have... Let's see. I don't know if they're counting Utah, or they are counting. They're not counting Utah Valley's win yet. They haven't updated the standings. But with Utah Valley's win tonight, you're going to have Utah Tech and Utah Valley at 6-8. You have SFA at 7-6, UT Arlington at 7-7, California Baptist now at 7-6 as well. And then at the bottom, you have Abilene Christian at 4-9, Southern Utah at 4-10. It's just crazy. That's on the men's side. On the women's side, it's even more messy. Especially after tonight, Utah Tech at 8-6, UT Arlington at 8-6, Abilene Christian at 7-6. Then you got UTRGV, Tarleton, Southern Utah, and Utah Valley all with 4 wins. And then you have Seattle U with 3 wins. So we're gonna bring in Daryl again. Share some comments with us. Share some thoughts from tonight. Whenever your team, what they did tonight in some of the ball games. I know we saw Tarleton get a massive road win, 80-78 at UT Arlington. Another one of those games, Dejuan Gordon had a chance to win it, but couldn't knock down the layup. And, fun ball game there. Knew it was going to be between these two schools. They're about 50 minutes apart or so. And at College Park Center, Tarleton is staying within reach of that regular season title. It just depends. They need some help, obviously. But they also get GCU at home next Thursday. Maybe they could get some help from CBU, which I don't know if that's going to happen, especially after you watch that CBU game tonight against Utah Valley. GCU rolling. They struggled a little bit to kind of put away Utah Tech, but pulled away late. They held Utah Tech without points for the last 2 minutes of that ball game in Phoenix. I'm going to bring Daryl, and we're going to talk some women's hoops as well tonight. Daryl, what's up, man?
Hey, Kyle.
It is late. I just watched the end of that CBU Utah Valley men's game. And everybody, if you are, share your thoughts. Hit the comment button. Hit the tweet button to reply to the post. And let's hear some thoughts from tonight's games. Got some viewers that are happening here. But Daryl, first off, I want to say Chloe Webb is the WAC Player of the Year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. She had another 30-point performance tonight. Unfortunately, it was in a losing cause in overtime. A major upset at Lockhart Arena in Orem as Dan Nielsen's group went off from 3-point land. I think they hit 11 tonight. They were 11 for 33 from 3-point land. Jenna Dick, the Tarleton transfer, 7 of 12 from distance. Like it was amazing the way she shot. And then Kylie Mabry hit 2 big ones in overtime. And then they kept feeding Tessa Chaney, who went for 25 and 14 tonight. So just a wild guy. I tell you what, I love when there's great pace in a ball game. And tonight in Orem, there was great pace.
Well, there's great pace, and the women's game allows for a game like the rules allow for a game like that because when you contrast it with the men's game, think about it: 4 media stoppages versus 8 in a quarter, 5 fouls to shoot free throws versus 7 and a half. The rules just allow for a game like that to have flow, and you can just blow right through media timeouts.
Yeah.
But all the credit to Utah Valley. That is a program reinvigorating win for Dan Nielsen. As much as I live in Riverside, I live close to CBU. I basically cover CBU. That is a program reinvigorating win for Dan Nielsen and Utah Valley, who have just struggled since that year they went to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of wild. Utah Valley's not known for playing up-tempo like they did tonight, but they got out in transition. They played the kind of style that CBU loves to play, so you would have thought advantage CBU. It just came down to hitting some shots, in overtime, and that's what it was. Michael Chavez watching, GCU fan. Duke Brennan owned the glass tonight. Yeah, you're right. Oh, my goodness. I think I was listening to the GCU game on my drive home, and I think in one possession, he pulled down like 3 or 4 offensive rebounds. I know that there was one off a missed free throw that he got to put. I don't even know how. He was one shooting the free throw. He got the rebound and put it back in after he missed it. He had 16 boards tonight. He even fouled out the ball game. 16 boards tonight. I want to see. Let's see. He had 8. This is awesome. Duke Brennan had 8 offensive rebounds and 8 defensive rebounds. Talk about efficient right there from the Arizona State transfer, but that's awesome. Like 16 rebounds, that's huge, especially in a night where like Utah Tech, from everything you watched, kind of had an advantage in the paint. They outscored the Lopes 32-18 in the paint. The rebounding was significant in GCU's favor, but like Utah Tech was attacking the paint. So big time win, pull away for the Lopes. I mean, Utah Tech gave all that they could handle for about 18 minutes down there in Phoenix. And now the Lopes get ready for CBU on Saturday. Utah Tech returns home. And I can't remember who. Oh, they play Seattle U on Saturday at Burns Arena. So, Duke Brennan with a monster night. I mean, he had 16 rebounds and 9 points, 3 or 4 from the field. He probably could have been a double-double, but he went 3 for 6 from the free throw line. So, I want to talk about this Tarleton men's team real quick. 11-3 in WAC play. They just won their 6th straight. They are still 2 games behind GCU in the regular season standings for that regular season title. They now have a week off after an 80-78 win, in which, let's put it this way, Keandre Gaddy fouled out, Devin Barnes fouled out, their starting point guard, and then Trayvar Jackson fouled out as well. So they had to play without 2 starters, and then one of their 6 men, because Jackson comes off the bench, is like one of their first ones off the bench. But they held off UT Arlington. I want to say they escaped UT Arlington with a win. The last time these 2 teams met, it was a 1-point win for, I believe it was a 1-point win for Tarleton. UT Arlington, it was a 1-point win back on, where's it at? 2-point win, 78-76. So they've beaten, Tarleton's beat UT Arlington by a combined 4 points in 2 games. Ja'Cory Smith, Lou Williams, Joseph Jones. Like everybody wants to say that Bryce True will be the coach of the year, if GCU wins out. most likely. But you cannot deny what Joseph Jones has done since taking over for Billy Gillespie in November. He is now 16-5 as the acting or interim head coach. They're 11-3 in WAC play. They basically clinched their spot. They did clinch their spot to WAC Vegas tonight with that win. And if they get some help somewhere and pull off an upset in Wisdom Gym next Thursday, they could be right there in the mix for the WAC regular season title. He has fewer resources. NIL is not as big as GCU. And he had to take over as head coach, not necessarily in the middle of the season, but after 4 games. So he's going to be in that mix for Coach of the Year. He absolutely is. So anyways, Tarleton, again, 80-78 over UT Arlington at College Park Center tonight. That is their 6th straight win. They shot 50% from the field. They went, there was 53 free throws shot, Daryl. And let me tell you this. In the second half of those 53, 47 free throws were shot in the second half.
Gee whiz.
Yeah, 47 of those 63 or 53 free throws were shot in the second half. Think about that.
That's 2.5 free throws a minute.
Yeah, so they only shot 6 free throws in the first half in Arlington. That is a wild stat, you guys, like completely wild. In the second half, Tarleton shot nearly 64% from the field. I don't know how in the world UT Arlington kept it close because they only shot 35%. But UT Arlington did take 9 more field goal attempts than Tarleton did. Oh, I don't know, Daryl. This is a wild stat line right here. I'm going to have to really go back and dig into this game because, I mean, this is wild.
Shaking my head at 47 free throws in 20 minutes. Good God.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Dejuan Gordon had a double-double, 20 points, 13 rebounds. He had 1 steal tonight. Man, crazy game. I'm looking. Somebody shared a thought on this game because this is wild, right? Like you don't see that stat where they shot 2/3 of all free throws came in the second half.
I mean, I didn't watch that game.
20 of 23, and UTA was 21 of 24.
I'm curious to see how that game was officiated.
29 of the 43 fouls were called in the second half.
Sounds like let them play a bunch and then tightened it up.
Yeah. Even then, though, the teams combined to score 97 points in the second half. That is ridiculous. That is awesome. Like, goodness gracious. That just means the tempo and the pace picked up a little bit, as did the defense. So, big time win for Tarleton. The Texans, like I said, improved to 11-3 in WAC play, clinched their spot at WAC Vegas. Now it's just a matter of where they're going to end up in the resume seeding system, which that won't be updated till tomorrow. But right now, I'm pulling it up, guys. My internet's being a little bit slow here as I pull this up. But right now, as it were tonight, I'm going to share the screen, you guys, so you can take a look at it as we're looking at this. Let's share the screen. WAC men's resume seeding. And you can see right now that Tarleton had 2.18 points. Seattle U got a win tonight, 78-68 over Southern Utah. Nice win for Chris Victor and the Red Hawks, who have struggled on the road as well. So I'm going to go down here and look. Tarleton got 0.59 points tonight for beating UT Arlington on the road. So that jumps them up that'll jump them to 2.77, right? And then Seattle U got 0.40. So they're up to 0.61. So there's still a lot of games left, obviously. 11-3, that means there's 6 games left for the Texans. Same for Seattle U. So there's a chance Seattle U can catch Tarleton, I don't know that's going to happen, but barring an epic collapse from the Texans down the stretch, I think they could be locked in as the 2, right? Or Seattle U would have to go and run off a bunch of wins. And the Red Hawks are at Utah Tech on Saturday. Then they're home for Stephen F. Austin, UTRGV, and UT Arlington before finishing up at Abilene Christian. This regular season finale at Tarleton might be for the 2 seed, Daryl. Do you see that?
Yeah, that is certainly the case, and that is certainly a winnable handful.
Does everybody see this that's watching? This game right here could be for the 2 seed.
That is certainly, yeah.
At Tarleton.
I mean, you look at Seattle's finish there, that is certainly a winnable stretch of games.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%.
For Chris Victor and company.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy, but it is certainly winnable.
They could win. Well, they've already won 1 here, so they could win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and have won 5 straight going in this Tarleton game. And if they get some help, Tarleton has UT. They beat UT Arlington. They host Grand Canyon California Baptist next week. Then they're at Utah Tech, at Southern Utah. And Southern Utah beat them in Stephenville, and then they host Utah Valley and Seattle to end the season. So that could be for the 2 seed, that game on March 9th in Stephenville when Tarleton hosts Seattle U. It could be. That 2 seed may already be locked up in 2 weeks, depending on what Tarleton does next week when they host GCU and CBU. So we'll see. Like it's crazy that Tarleton is in that spot. I mean, kudos to Joseph Jones, to Ja'Cory Smith, to Lou Williams, Condrick Gaddy, Dev Barnes, Emmanuel Innocente, who might be the WAC freshman of the year. He had 10.7 rebounds tonight. He's the only freshman really starting and getting significant minutes outside of maybe Braden Housley from Southern Utah. But maybe Zion Young. It's just crazy. Michael Chavez with the thought Tarleton continues to grind out wins. Right now, it doesn't matter what the way you're winning, especially if you're Tarleton, because 1, you're not going to the NCAA tournament, so you're not really playing for an at-large berth. 2, you just want to get to WAC Vegas. 3, a win's a win right now, right? Like, that's crazy. Let's see. Michael with also thought Tarleton at the 2 seed would potentially benefit the Lopes because if GCU wins the regular season title and Tarleton and GCU play in the WAC tourney championship, that would guarantee GCU a bid, right? No. And here's why. And I'll tell you, Mikey, I asked the same question with somebody else the other day. And Daryl, you can back me up on this. So if Tarleton or Utah Tech on either side, men's or women's, was to win the WAC tournament, the highest seeded team, so GCU would go, the highest seeded team from this resume seeding system would go to the NCAA tournament, not from the WAC standings.
So it's resume seeding system standings in lieu of the regular season standings like it was during the COVID year.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. It is based off the resume. Well, we didn't have the resume seeding system during the COVID year, so we can't say that it would have been that. It was just a regular conference standings back then. The resume seeding system didn't come out till last year, 2022-23. So, yeah, but if Tarleton or Utah Tech wins the WAC tournament, just everybody hear this out, wins the WAC tournament, it is the highest seeded team from the resume seeding system that goes to the NCAA tournament for the WAC, that takes the AQ for the WAC. That means that in this situation now, both GCU teams would go. Let's say that Utah Tech women somehow won the WAC tournament and somehow Tarleton won the WAC tournament. Both GCU teams would go as of now because they both sit atop the resume seeding system. Right? So that's that. It used to be the regular season, the highest seeded or the highest finishing team in the regular season standings, Mikey, but now that we have the seeding system, they're using that for a lot of tiebreakers and a lot of these situations. So just like the tiebreaker is for that like A spot, if 2 teams are tied in the regular season standings, they split the season series. It goes to whoever is rated higher in the resume seeding system. So That's something.
We might need that in the women's side after what happened tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It is good for Skylar Young and the Red Hawks. I'm glad to see they're winning some ball games. That's awesome. We talked about Dan Nielsen and Utah Valley Wolverines pulling off that thrilling win over CBU. You know what? One unique thing with the CBU thing, a game tonight, I was sitting right next to their bench. That's where they had me posted up. And in the first half, Jared Olson was actually frustrated with his team for continuing to complain about calls or non-calls. I don't know that I've seen a coach actually get on his players and tell them, stop complaining. Because they weren't getting back on defense. They were so worried about calls and so on and so on. And the officials were getting kind of PO'd at the players for always complaining about stuff. Kudos. Like, that, you got to get on your players to stop complaining sometimes, right? Like, even if calls aren't going your way, like, that's awesome. I'm not going to lie. That was awesome.
Yeah, just get back, let the coach deal with it, and play defense. I mean, it wasn't their night tonight, but Kyle, we got to talk about this dismantling of Utah Tech that GCU put on in St. George tonight. Oh, my
goodness. GCU is on. The GCU women are on. I feel like there's some kind of mission that they're on. I think they're just out to make a statement because I don't think they feel like they're getting the respect. I mean, think about this. Since losing to SFA on January 25th, in Phoenix, by the way, they have a win by 35, 13, 14, 15, and now 47.
They held
5
Utah
straight
Tech
wins, all by double figures.
They held Utah Tech to a season low in points, albeit down Macy Warren, but still.
Either way, like, what they're doing to teams right now is just saying we're gonna kick your butt, plain and simple.
And then look at the balance on this box score. I don't know if you've looked at it yet. Trinity San Antonio, 21 points, 5 of 8 from 3, and her return to Riverside is Saturday. Olivia Lane, 17 and 6. Tiara Brown, 10 and 4, 4 steals too.
Yeah.
And
go ahead, keep going.
And the Lopes hit 9 of 22 threes, 41% from the 3-point line.
Yeah,
we normally talk about offense as a Molly Miller team's bugaboo, but when you look at this box tonight, 57.4% from the floor, 35 of 61, 9 of 22 from deep. This is a team that's ready to win on Saturday.
Yeah, it's they're actually playing the way that we all thought that they were going to play most of the season over these last 5. I think the worst thing for WAC teams was SFA beating GCU at home. Plain and simple, because like I said, let's just read that off again. Following that loss, it was a 59-54 loss on January 25th. 2 nights later, they held a red-hot UT Arlington team to 35 points, won by 35. They won at Seattle by 13 in a game that was a little bit closer than maybe it should have been, but they came away with a double-digit win. Against Utah Valley on February 3rd at home, they won by 14. This past Saturday, they beat Southern Utah in Cedar City by 16. And then tonight, they had the 47-point dismantling of JD Gusson's Utah Tech Trailblazers. Like I said, I think that loss was the worst possible thing to happen for WAC teams on the women's side because it is a sleeping giant. And now that they're healthy, they're deep, they're talented, and Molly Miller's got the team that I think she thought she was going to have all season long. Finally, a well-oiled machine is happening right now with the Lopes.
And I think that, if you're a GCU women's fan, you look at, I don't know, Kyle, if you've talked about bracketology yet on the men's side, but on the women's side, a lot of folks have the GCU women as a 14 right now.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I think there's a disrespect that they feel on their shoulders right now.
If I'm a 3 seed, like a Colorado, like her hoop stats has them playing right now, I would not want to be staring off at this GCU team defensively.
Yep. So here it is. GCU goes to Riverside to take on California Baptist, who lost tonight in Orem. It would have been nice if the Lancers would have pulled it off, just so it would have been 12-1 versus 13-1, But now California Baptist has to win in order to really stay in the regular season title race, or they would need some serious help along with a win at Grand Canyon on March 9th to even make it possible. So I don't know. Jared Olson's team is so banged up. They didn't have Chloe Lemon again tonight. We know that Grace Schmidt's been out for the season. Kinsley Barrington went down for a time, but she came back in before fouling out. It's just one of those things, Daryl, that we'll see what the Lancers, how they bounce back after their travel back to Riverside. GCU obviously going from St. George to Riverside. So we'll see. That'll be a fun game on Saturday afternoon. I think that's a 1 p.m.
1 o'clock
Pacific
p.m.
time tip-off in Riverside. So quick turnaround for both teams. Fortunately for Grand Canyon, they got some rest, and CBU, they had to grind out an overtime loss.
And then, Kyle, let's not forget next Thursday, Abilene Christian makes that trip to Riverside. Big week for the Lancers for their regular season title hopes.
It did not start off well. Let's just put it that way. Matt Kennedy, what was the bigger W, UVU men or women tonight? Women were a bigger upset, but maybe UVU men is bigger win because it might give them a spark to not only clinch a WAC Vegas spot soon, but I still smell a potential buy. Ooh, that's a big thought, Matt. So first off, let's address the first question. The bigger win.
I think it's bigger for Danielson.
I'm going to say it's bigger for the men, and this is why. They were 1-10 in true road games coming into tonight. Now they're 2-10, and it wasn't just a grind-out win. It was a blowout win over CBU. They held the Lancers to less than 50 points, Daryl. So while the win for the women is awesome and it could, spark some confidence, I'm going to say for the UVU men it was bigger because they haven't won on the road. And to get that spot in WAC Vegas, you have to win some games on the road. I think I told somebody tonight at Utah Valley that they have to earn at least a split because they go to Southern Utah on Saturday. I'll be there at America First Event Center. I just think it was bigger for the men. Like it was, and the way that they won too, Daryl, like they dominated CBU, right? To your other question, no, there's no other question. The women's game was awesome. Like the fact that, Jenna Dick hit 3-pointers, that Kylie Mabry hit big 3-pointers in overtime, that Tessa Chaney did her thing in the paint because there was such a size advantage. And then they played with so much pace that I haven't seen it out of a Utah Valley women's basketball team all season long. So bigger win for the Utah Valley men, but an awesome win for the Utah Valley women, right, Daryl?
Yeah, I agree. And, go back to Tessa Chaney. She's been on a roll the last couple of weeks. Double figures in, I think, 3 out of her last 4 or 5.
Yeah, she's been really good in the paint for them, like really good. She had 25 and 14 tonight. So, yeah, really good for them. Really good for them.
Let's go back and take a look at, that race for that 8th spot. Now we got, 5 teams with 4 wins in Seattle.
On the women's side, let's look at it.
Yeah, making themselves relevant.
We're going to share our screen here. Matt, thanks for the question. I don't know if a bye is in order for Utah Valley. They're going to need a lot of help on the men's side to get a bye or get into that top 4. So we'll see what happens. We'll come to the other questions in just a minute. We're going to show the women's standings here. Obviously, Grand Canyon at 13-1, CBU at 11-2. I wonder if I can there we go.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, so Stephen F. Austin had the bye tonight, 9-4. Utah Tech lost tonight; they're 8-6. UT Arlington, they went to Tarleton and beat Tarleton, so they are 8-6. Abilene Christian had a win over UTRGV tonight. They're 7-6, and then you have a cluster right here of teams with 4 wins, and Seattle U coming on strong. They've won 2 in a row. And they have an interesting schedule. So they host Utah Tech on Saturday. Then they have this weird stretch of 3-game roadie. Then they're home to Abilene. This could be the defining game. They could, potentially pull off this win and go to WAC Vegas. That'd be crazy, wouldn't it? Skylar Young's team was kind of looking like they were out of it, and now they're back in it with back-to-back wins. So, I don't know, Daryl.
In the middle there, We had a question in the mailbag about that race for the 4 spot in the regular season standings. I believe it was Guy Earl who asked it earlier. That's ACU did their job, and Utah Tech kind of did what was expected. But go back to this ACU UTRGV box score for a second. Addison Martin 26-9 tonight.
Yeah.
For the Wildcats. That's a big performance from her in the Wildcats' first game without Aspen Thornton.
Yep. Big country is what they call her down there in Abilene Christian. So she was pretty big country. It's pretty big tonight, right?
Absolutely.
Julie Goodenough's team got a nice win against UTRGV. They had to kind of grind it out there late. They kind of gave up a big lead in the second half, but they won their third in a row. That's 3 wins in a row for Julie Goodenough's squad.
With SFA coming on Saturday.
I'm going to say the magic number for the teams to the top 8, at least for those teams with 4 wins and then Seattle U, I think the magic number is going to be 6. Who gets the 6 wins out of that crew? And I think that's going to be the one that those are going to be the 2 teams that go to WAC Vegas, because obviously you have a 5-way 5-team battle for that 7 and 8 spot. Because I'm pretty sure Grand Canyon, California Baptist, they've already clinched. Stephen F. Austin could clinch with 1 win. Utah Tech, UT Arlington, I think they need 2 more. And Abilene Christian, same thing, 2 or 3 more. But I think 6 is the magic number for those other teams that are battling out for that 7 and 8 spot.
I'm going to agree with you.
Let's get to some of these other questions here. Robert, how do you think Tarleton men can match up with GCU at home next week? Good question. It wasn't pretty when they played in Phoenix a couple weeks ago. Like, it was just not good at all. They got out to a good start, but then they fell completely flat in the second. I think it was with like 4 or 5 minutes left in the first half that Grand Canyon just completely took over and dominated that game. It ended up being a 26-point blowout at GCU Arena, so it's going to be a challenge. Let's just put that. It's going to be a challenge.
If memory serves, didn't GCU lose at Wisdom Gym last year?
Yeah, they were down by 30 at one point last year. They were down. It was an awful game for the Lopes at Wisdom Gym last year. So Tarleton's been really good at home. The big thing is, can Keandre Gaddy stay out of foul trouble? Because they don't have a lot of depth after Keandre Gaddy. Same with Ja'Cory Smith and Lou Williams. I think they match up pretty well, but they're going to have to play 40 minutes, and VCU has more depth, so that'll come into play significantly because Tarleton doesn't have a ton of depth right now. So the Wisdom Gym is crazy. Crazier things have happened. Like we said, Tarleton beat GCU by 20-plus last year in Wisdom Gym. They beat Utah Valley by 20-plus last year in Wisdom Gym. They're going to need a win over GCU next Thursday to create chaos for that WAC regular season title. So
the good thing
I think
is
they
for
match
the
up pretty well. What?
The good thing is for the Texans, they do get that bye. So that's the only team they'll be preparing for all week.
Yeah, they got a whole week to prepare. So that's a good thing. Get some rest, get some recuperation after tonight's, win at UT Arlington. And hope maybe that California Baptist gives GCU a battle on Saturday night at GCU. Obviously the Lancers didn't tonight against Utah Valley at home. So yeah, I think the Texans match up pretty well. I mean, heck, they're not 11-3 in WAC play for no reason. They're not 16-5 since Joseph Jones took over for no reason. So, yeah, I think we're going to get a better ball game next Thursday between the Lopes and the Texans than we did back in January. So, 18-7. Tarleton's going to be a 20-win team this year, or at least they should be. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that is the first. That would be the first time in the Division I era that they have won 20 games. Somebody could correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to go back and look here.
Kyle, while you're looking, men's NIT eligibility for Tarleton if they were not to win the WAC tournament championship?
I believe they still could. I'm not 100% sure, but again, that NIT stuff has changed, so I don't know.
Okay. And then I would imagine the CBI or the CIT would let him in.
Oh, 100% if they chose to go. If they chose to pay and go, or if they had some kind of deal where they had to return after something. Yeah, so now the 18 wins right now is the most of the Division I era for Tarleton. So it would be the first 20-win season of the Division I era if they were to win 2 more games. That is awesome. That is awesome. It's a good way to go out of the transition phase. Let's put it that way. Mikey, you brought up a couple of quotes here. UVU men dominated CBU in shocking fashion. Yes, they did. And then UVU has back-to-back blowout wins. They do. They throttled ACU last Saturday in Orem, and then they just throttled California Baptist on the road. So are the Wolverines for real? Are they playing better? Excuse me. Yeah, so they had the 74-45 win over Abilene Christian on Saturday, 29-point win, and then they just had a 23-point win over California Baptist on the road. I don't know what to make of this Utah Valley squad. Maybe they're coming on strong here now. They've got a couple big wins under their belt and can feel what winning feels like. So they have a big one on Saturday at Southern Utah. We know the American First Event Center is going to be rocking. I will be down there. Daryl, any last thoughts from tonight's episode of the Straight Outta WAC After Hours as we wind this down? We've done a lot of talking about certain teams and some wins and some big upsets and some surprise things. We've got some questions that have come in. Any last thoughts?
No, I mean, obviously really good night for Utah Valley, the Utah Valley women and both Utah Valley teams really. Really good night for ACU, keeping that winning streak alive at 3. Games to watch Saturday are going to be that Abilene Christian or SFA at Abilene Christian game in Moody. Or no, that's in Nacogdoches. And then
the women's game is in Moody.
Oh, the women's game? Okay, that's right. Buckets had the call the first time.
Yep, the women's game is in Moody.
And then that CBU GCU game, and that's really these next 7 days are going to tell us a lot about how the regular season championship is going to unfold.
Well, and I think, too, there's a big game in Orem between Southern Utah and Utah Valley because they're right there at 4-10 each in the WAC standings. So
that race
somebody's going to get a leg up, right?
That race for the 8, yep.
UTRGV is at UT Arlington. So the winner of the Southern Utah Valley game will have a leg up, most likely on UTRGV and Tarleton, the Texans are off this weekend. So that's a big game in Orem on the women's side. On the men's side, we could say every game's big. Let's see, you got Abilene Christian at Stephen F. Austin. That game went to overtime in Moody Coliseum a couple weeks ago. UT Arlington at UTRGV. How does UT Arlington respond to a tough loss on Thursday night, where they go face a Vaquero squad that's still banged up? They didn't have Aaron Freeman tonight, but they had Hassan Abdul Hakim, who jumped back on the floor. I was surprised to see him, but it's good that he's back on the floor. And UTRGV is coming off a kind of an emotional loss to ACU, where they kind of let the game slip away from them late in the second half. Utah Valley at Southern Utah. Can the Wolverines keep rolling, or will the T-Birds kind of play spoiler and get back in the mix after a couple losses recently? They've lost 3 in a row. They lost to Utah Tech last week. GCU, they got blown out, and then they lost at home to Seattle U tonight. Seattle U at Utah Tech. Utah Tech, they're really good at home. They had a grind-out loss at GCU where they held their own for about 18 minutes or so. And then you got California Baptist at Grand Canyon. How does CBU respond? I think my game of the night is going to be Utah Valley at Southern Utah. That's probably the best matchup of them all. Utah Valley beat the T-Birds back in Orem back in January. So we'll see what happens there. Yes, say I'm biased. I don't care. I'm not. It's a rivalry game. Leave me alone. Anyways, guys, for Daryl, myself, it is late here in Utah, almost 10:30. Go to bed, everybody. Rest up. And we'll see you on another episode of Straight Outta WAC podcast tomorrow. And we will also see you on Straight Outta WAC after hours. I'm going to try and make it after hours on Saturday after ball game at the America First Event Center. And Daryl, enjoy your weekend. And we'll talk to you all on another episode tomorrow on the Straight Out of Whack podcast. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Follow along. We'll have these Straight Out of Whack after hours every Thursday and Saturday from here on out. And podcast episodes come out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. So appreciate all the support and love the questions. Keep them coming. And then we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Straight Out of Whack podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcasting platforms. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Remember to follow WAC Hoops Nation on all your favorite social media platforms.